Guru Nation, a couple of things as a small site that you should consider when starting a brand new study, a study startup. If you know that you're going to work with the sponsor, you can start your study startup regulatory activities concurrently while you do your contract and budget. Usually what they ask for are things like, hey, here's your 1572, please complete it. Here's the template. Here's the protocol signature page. Please give us the essential documents for your site, meaning CVs, GCPs, IATA certificates, medical licenses. Usually that's what it is for the PIs, sub-Is, and all other appropriate staff. They also ask for financial disclosure forms if you own financial interest in the company. They usually also ask for proof of your temperature storage log, so they want to see that they're calibrated and that you have temp storage that's continuously monitoring, or however it is you do it at our site, it's continuously monitoring. IRB approval comes soon after, and you should probably start on that right away. I tend to want to get that out of the way as soon as we start negotiating the contract. We rarely don't agree on a contract with sponsors, so shout out to Chris. He's my partner at DSCS. He negotiates all the contracts. Ultimately, if we really want the indication and the sponsor really wants our site, we meet somewhere in the middle. And to be honest with you, lately it's been very site favored. Like, the market's really site centric, especially if you're in a diverse area like Yuma, Arizona, border town, access to a lot of minority populations. So those are like some of the study startup things you need. You're going to need to fill out some questionnaires about what your electronic medical records are, whether you use SourceDoc, eSource, or paper source. So you have to fill out questions like, where are these things stored? In our case, it's Creo. Shout out to Creo. It's eSource. They're going to ask for validation of Creo, which Creo provides those documentations. If you're using paper source, easy. There's no validation. They're going to ask you questions about your PI's electronic medical records. You can just put the vendor, but if you are using something like Creo, that also serves as a patient database, so that can serve as our database. To keep these things simple, the sponsor just wants to know where the medical records are going to be coming from. So if they're certified copies, you don't even need to validate your PI's electronic medical records, because you're not giving access to those records to the CRA. Everything is done either through our paper source for sites that are using paper, or Creo. So that makes it simple. The questions and forms can be intimidating. We just received the startup packet today for a new study. They'll ask for W-9, which is financial. At the end of the day, these things are just things that need to get done. They're not that complicated. If you go look at those things, you'll see for yourself. Every sponsor has variations of these forms. A lot of them usually are, like, the more complicated ones lay around this area that I mentioned around medical records. Whereas the medical records, does the CRA have access to it? They do not need to have access to the records. To keep things simple, my site does certified copies, meaning if my PI is using eClinicalWorks as their electronic health record vendor, we print a copy of the patient records, whatever is the most relevant for the purpose of the study, not all of it, and then we will upload that to Creo, and then the site will e-sign it. So now it's a certified copy, and it keeps things simple because Creo is already validated, and the monitors do have access to Creo and all those kind of things where we can redact the personal health information or not. I've heard both schools of thought on that. So that's study startup. You do want to get those things done quickly. You don't want to procrastinate on that and sit on that, because then it's the IRB startup, which takes like an hour maybe to complete. And Chris and I have done a walkthrough on one of these before, so just go check out the video archives for that. And the informed consent template, and then you start getting the investigator site file, and as you start preparing for the site initiation visit, it's no longer study startup. Now it's just essential documents and investigator site file, where you start doing things like training logs at the site initiation visit, and you make sure you have all your logs in place, delegation of authorities log. So don't procrastinate on your startup. Get those things going quickly. Sponsors are measuring how quickly the sites can turn around. Usually 2 to 4 weeks is acceptable. No more than that, especially if you're a small site. Get it done quickly. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Good luck, Guru Nation. Bye-bye.